Warning, this video isn't for anyone under the age of 16. If you're under 16 years old, please leave the video now because we do get into some adult type shit. Thank you. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy CharlesISanimeWorld, and welcome to my review of Redo Healer Episode 7. Now, what I do different from anybody else, guys, is I showcase off the differences between the anime and the manga without spoiling you. Okay, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about Redo Healer Episode 7. Now, this episode takes place between chapters 16.2 through 17.3. Don't go past 17.3 or you will get spoiled. So in total, that's around about 5 chapters, okay? So let's talk about the differences between the anime and the manga this week for Redo Healer Episode 7. Now, overall, this was a really good episode, but a lot was changed within this episode. Now, it wasn't enough that you should go out and read the manga for this week's episode, but there were a few differences that I want to point out to you guys. So let's start this thing. So let's talk about Kiaru versus the soldiers. Now in the anime was great. I love seeing Kiaru destroying the soldiers. It was great blood being spurted everywhere. You know, he says heal and then body parts just explode. It reminded me a lot of Fist of the North Star. In the manga, it happens so fast that you can't really fully tell what's going on. You see Kiaru like run through some soldiers and then a little bit of blood in the background. But so what I will say is that the anime handled this scene much better than the manga did. Also, guys, before I go any further, I just want to say this real quick. This is not a comparison between the anime and the light novel. I know I've had this discussion before. I am not talking about the light novel. I'm sure that the light novel is different from the manga and possibly from the anime, but what I'm showcasing off is the differences between the manga and the anime. So again, thank you so much for understanding that and not saying in the comment section, read the light novel, because we're not going to read the light novel. Okay, so moving forward, guys, the guy that's holding Kiaru's townspeople, village people, whatever you want to call them, in the anime, he fights with a huge stone in his hand. And in the manga, he doesn't fight with a huge stone at all, okay? Also, in the anime, they gave him facial hair, but in the manga, he just has like this really little thin mustache. So again, I don't understand why those slight differences were made. Maybe they gave him full hair, facial hair in the anime to make him look more dignified. I don't know. Who knows? Now let's talk about the next big difference. Kiaru's Coliseum prep time. Now I have to apologize. Last week I didn't mention his prep time because I assumed that they were going to save it for this episode. That's why I didn't even bring it up, because I saw it. I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they're just going to move it around for this episode, since this is going to focus more so on the Coliseum than last week's episode did. They completely skipped the prep time. I highly encourage you guys to go back and read chapters 15.2 through 16.1 to actually see how Kiaru prepared the Coliseum, so once they activated it, it worked within his favor. Now, the anime completely skipped it, okay? They completely skipped it, and in the anime they made it seem like Setsuna and Freya did everything, while in the manga, if you go back and read the chapters, which I highly encourage you guys to do for just to understand the prep time and to understand everything that Kiaru did to make this Coliseum barrier work for him, he did it all by himself. He snuck in, did everything by himself. Now, the effects of the barrier were much worse in the manga. In the anime, okay, you saw some people kind of screaming and shuddering and they were kind of shaking a little bit. It was a little bit of blood. But in the manga, eyes looked like they were getting sucked out by a vacuum cleaner hose. Like, it was blood everywhere. The manga handled this scene much better than the anime did. It seemed like the anime, you know, tried to hold back a little bit on the blood for this part, which I don't understand, because why would you hold back with the blood for this part, where earlier on in the episode you had Kiaru literally making bodies explode, pop, and everything else? I don't know that. Moving forward, while we're talking about blood, the whole thing with Kiaru spinning around while it was raining blood on him, which was completely and utterly very cool. That was completely anime only. That never happened in the manga, and I'm kind of pissed because I wish it did happen in the manga. That was one of the most coolest scenes I've seen in a long time in anime. You know, Kiara did his rendition of singing in the rain, but it was just blood every fucking where. It was amazing. It really was. Let's talk about the townspeople. Once Kiaru finally reaches the townspeople, in the manga, they are already dead. Every last single one of them that wasn't stabbed, they were already dead. Okay, but in the anime, they're still alive. Some of them are still alive, but they've been poisoned. Also, I will say that the anime decided to completely skip the close-up scene of the dead white guy with the long beard that's strung up on a cross. I think the anime was like, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to go that far. We're not going to show that. So the anime decided to skip that as well. Now, another huge difference, the anime completely and utterly skipped the introduction of Bako. Now, Bako was the vice captain of Freya's knights. Basically, what Bako was there to do was prove that Freya was actually the real deal. But in the anime, all she did was to prove that she was the real deal, not including her using her magic, but at the very first glance, once we see her, is she sing the song. And really, that's all it took was her to sing a song, and all the people was like, oh, this is definitely Freya, yes, and they start crying and shit. And I'm like, a song, really? Because the anime skipped the introduction to Bako, again, because this was all happened in the manga, because the anime skipped the introduction, the battle between Bako versus Setsuna and Freya never happens in the anime. It's manga only. So again, that's a really cool battle to go back and check out for yourselves. It's really quick, but again, it's Setsuna and Freya, you know, tag teaming up against Bako, you know, who is a vice captain. Now, the guy that was using the townspeople to lure out Kiaru, in the anime, he got stabbed in the back, and he died. In the manga, that didn't happen. In the manga, he just got stumped to death. They just stumped his ass out. So that was another big difference right there. And also, Kiaru in the manga was unable to save any villagers. Not a single one. He was unable to save any of them because, like I said earlier on, once he was finally able to reach them or get close, he saw that they were all already dead. But again, in the anime, someone was still alive because they were still coughing. They were just poisoned. So imagine my surprise that one boy lived. One of the townspeople lived, a single boy. Now, everything in the anime that you saw involving that boy, them waiting, looking at him, and all this, everything that you saw, every scene that featured him or had anything to do with him was completely and utterly anime only. That never happened in the manga. I will say one thing, and this isn't really anything big, but once all that trash and everything was over with the barrier and the Coliseum, once they Kiara reached Setsuna and Freya, Setsuna got a head pat from Kiara because he said that she did a great job. But that's not really anything important. That's just something I wanted to point out. Last but not least, guys, Norm, Freya's sister, man. I mean, I tell you guys the truth. Freya's sister, I'm not gonna lie to you, Norm. I like her more than Freya. I really, really do. She decides to step on the head of this random soldier and crushes his head to death because she repeatedly steps on it. But in the anime, she just steps on John. And also, it's their version of John. It's not the manga version of John, which we talked about last week. The reason that, he's has a completely different design, which we all can understand. But yeah, that'll do it, guys, for this week. Everything else that happened, the extra sex and all of that, for the uncensored version, all that was anime only, and I'm not complaining about it because it was great. Loved it. It was phenomenal, But that'll do it. Thank you guys so much. I will catch you guys next week, and hey, sayonara, suckers.